In this video, I'm gonna show you how I created, produced, and mixed this song in under 3 hours. And this is a really good exercise, and I challenge you to try the same thing at home and see what happens. You know, just put a little timer on the side and see what comes out of it, and tell yourself that no matter what, within that time period, you have to finish your track. So I was lying in bed listening to an interview with David Bowie, where he was talking about randomized creativity, and I love that whole topic of creating things very spontaneously and almost random. So I stood up and I thought to myself, hey, let's have some fun. Let's make some music. And when we introduce time pressure into the equation, we tend to think less, and it naturally becomes more spontaneous too. So I wanted to give myself a challenge just to see what comes out of it if I put a timer on for 3 hours with nothing prepared or planned. So I went to the laptop, I hooked up my MIDI keyboard, and I started looking for a loop or some sort of drum beat. And I first found this one. And then this one. And they were cool, but I wanted to bring in some weirdness into it and some randomization. So I thought, what if I put them on top of each other? Because obviously when you put two beats on top of each other, a third new beat will come to life. And because they were the same tempo, but then I moved one of them to the right, just randomly a few beats, and I pressed play. And that's what it sounded like. And I really liked it. So what I heard inspired me to pick up my brother's Fender bass, and I grabbed it, but I also grabbed a coin that was lying in the corner. So I started playing with that coin on the bass as a pick to get a really edgy sound. So I pressed record and I just jammed with the song. And that was it. A couple of takes, done. And after that, I started looking for a synth sound, something to play on top. And I went through a list of 100 presets, and I decided that my eyes were gonna choose the sound. The coolest name was gonna be the one. And when I finally came to a sound called Tokyo, I knew that was the one because I love everything Japanese. And the funny part was that the way it sounded inspired me to play a certain melody. And while being on a roll, I decided to put a vocal on top of it. And not really knowing what I was gonna sing, I just grabbed the mic that was lying around and I took it in my hand and I pressed record and I started jamming along. And I doubled them a few times and that was it. And after adding an arpeggio synth, some hand claps, and a few other bits, I was done, and only an hour and a half had passed. But before I started mixing it, it was time for a good old studio tea break. And speaking of that, let's take a break and let's go for a walk. And it's during these breaks where I believe we do our best work and the best ideas come to us. And as a mix engineer for the past 18 years, I've done a big part of my work while walking to the studio. So by the time I reach the studio and I sit down to work, I already kind of know and I have an idea of where I'm going and where I want to start. And that's why I think it's important to take breaks throughout the day when you work. And even though I had a really tight deadline on this day, I made that break a priority. And it was during that time when I decided that I wanted to go for more of a Daft Punk vibe for the vocal, for a very edgy and almost saturated sound. Let's go back to the studio and I'll show you what I did. And just because this video was getting way too long, I decided to cut it up into 2 parts. So if you want to keep watching, just click on that link on the screen right now or in the description below.